The wind rocks my car. A skull is nailed to an oak. It wears a hat. It is watching me. This story builds empathy and solves problems. Be the smartest person at dinner. Watch now and read it.
We are diving into a mystery that starts not with a body in a ballroom or, a cryptic note slipped under a door.
Yeah.
It begins with something far more bizarre and, frankly, unnervingly public.
Right. We're talking about a piece of grotesque, macabre art. A modified animal skull-nailed about 10 feet up an ancient oak tree in a really quiet patch of North Carolina wilderness.
Exactly. Near a tiny community called Frog Pond, which just adds to the strangeness of it all.
And right away, the source material establishes this isn't just an isolated incident of small-town cruelty. It's not a one-off.
No, not at all.
The investigation, which is led by forensic anthropologist Dr. Temperance Brennan, or Tempe, as she's called it, quickly confirms that this bizarre discovery is really just the opening act of a frightening, escalating pattern.
And what a pattern it is.
It's a progression that moves with this chilling predictability from what looks like simple, stylized animal torture through, well, grave disturbance, and then ultimately to highly organized human murder.
And murder driven by something very specific.
Pure, personalized psychological terrorism. That's the endgame.
That's exactly right. Our mission for this deep dive is a comprehensive, really exhaustive analysis of that entire investigation. We're looking at what is essentially a masterclass in how forensic science, combined with old-fashioned, gritty detective work and critically psychological profiling, works to uncover a serial perpetrator.
And the most chilling insight from the source material, the thing that really gets under your skin.
What's that?
This killer isn't really targeting his victims in the traditional sense. He's targeting the raw, terrified reactions of the people, like the woman who found the skull, who just happened upon his work. The spectacle is the point.
The reaction is the goal.
Precisely. What's fascinating here, and what we'll really unpack, is that we're tracking a criminal mind that progresses with deliberate, almost scientific intent. It's methodical.
He's refining his method with every single display.
He is. So for you, the listener, this is your shortcut to understanding that complex process of linking what seems like random animal cruelty to highly organized, targeted human violence.
And it also forces us to explore the professional lines, the ethical and emotional lines that experts like Tempe Brennan and Detective Slidell have to navigate.
When they're confronted with what Tempe ultimately just calls pure, personalized evil,
it gets intensely personal for the investigators, and we really need to understand how and why that shift happens.
it's the core of the whole thing.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have a mountain of sources, notes, and investigative reports detailing every step. So we're going to start right at the beginning with Dr. Brennan's initial, and I have to say, very reluctant involvement. So the narrative opens with Tempe being exceptionally resistant to the call. I mean, she is absolutely focused on personal escape.
Yeah, she wants out. She's got a leisurely drive planned to Asheville, hiking in the mountains with Ryan, her partner.
And she views this demand to go to Stanley County as just an unwanted, frustrating detour into the boonies.
To collect what she dismissively thinks is a putrefying raccoon or a possum. Her words.
Her exact words. And, this reluctance is actually crucial. Let's dig into that for a minute, because it sets up her character, doesn't it? It places her in a specific subgenre.
It really does. This is a key moment for establishing Tempe's archetype within the police procedural subgenre. She's the brilliant expert, yes, we know that. But she's not the hard-boiled type who, lives for the case and has nothing else.
Right, she's not the cliché of the detective with the messy apartment and the bottle of whiskey.
Not at all. Her personal life, her vacation, her relationship with Ryan, these are not just background details. They're important to her. They're what she's fighting to protect.
So the fact that the case pulls her in against her will, it's not just a plot point.
No, it's a thematic one. It disrupts her well-deserved rest. It immediately sparks a debilitating headache. It sets the stage for how all-consuming this confrontation with evil is going to become.
It starts with an inconvenience.
A simple inconvenience. And that makes the escalation later on so much more jarring for both her and for us.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about the incident that actually triggers this whole cascade of events. It's Bella Abutto's car crash.
Right. Bella, an elderly woman, she's driving along, minding her own business, getting eggs for a church bake sale. It's all very mundane and normal.
Until it isn't. She's suddenly driven off the road.
And why?
Because she sees what she believes is a sign from Satan. A vision so terrifying it causes her to completely lose control of her vehicle.
Which, right there, introduces spectacle as the primary motivation for the killer.
It's exactly what the perpetrator wanted. Bella's reaction is the desired outcome. The art isn't the skull, the art is Bella's terror.
And the discovery that results from her crash is just, well, it's bizarre. A skull described as wearing a hat wrapped in fabric and decorated with glitter and feathers.
And nailed 10 feet up an ancient oak.
The sheer impossibility of the display, the combination of cheap, colorful craft store adornments with organic remains, it's just meant to shock. It's meant to maximize public disruption. It's a calculated effort at pure provocation. It's street theater, but with a body part.
But here is where the expertise of a forensic anthropologist cuts right through all that theatrics.
Yes.
Despite the sensational details, the glitter, the fabric, the height Tempe, recognizes the overall motif almost instantly.
She does. She quickly suspects it is, quote, another of these sick animal displays.
Which confirms that this type of highly stylized cruelty is already a known, disturbing trend that's been cropping up in Mecklenburg and the surrounding counties.
So she knows this isn't random. She understands this is organized, repeated behavior, not some drunk teenager with a hammer and a bad idea. This is a pattern.
And that recognition is the real turning point for the investigation, even if nobody else gets it yet.
Right, because the local sheriff, Hattie Stitz, she's still treating it like a highly unusual, maybe even dangerous prank that just needs to be safely dealt with.
Spitz calls the story quite bizarre, sends a deputy with a ladder.
But it's Tempe who ultimately has to climb up, and she makes this little point of putting on a latex glove.
A gesture she notes is probably overkill for an animal DOA.
But it's a necessary professional demarcation. It's her saying, this is a scene, this is evidence. And that's when she gets her first detailed look at the object, which is then cataloged as MCME 70125.
Okay, let's spend some real time on that forensic examination because the details are everything here. She confirms it is an animal skull, not human.
Right, despite the disconcerting appearance of the cheekbone and the dentition, which initially made her second guess.
But what did the exhaustive analysis really reveal about the physical evidence? I'm talking about that chilling surgical pattern.
Well, the initial examination confirms the perpetrator's signature is about meticulous, customized cruelty. It's not just random violence.
The cheap adornments, the glitter, and the fabric, they're just a mask for something very precise.
A complete mask. Because underneath it all, Tempe observes the skull and notices something is instantly off about the jaw. And this turns out to be the definitive, chilling surgical pattern observed on this skull and all the others.
Which is what?
All 4 canines had been meticulously removed.
All 4 canines. Wow.
All 4.
The teeth meant for ripping and aggression removed. That is not random damage from, being hit by a car or something.
Absolutely not. This removal suggests precision. It suggests tools. It suggests a deliberate defanging, both literally and symbolically.
So what does that imply? That the killer kept the teeth as trophies? Or is it something else?
It could be trophies, or it could be purely symbolic. We don't know for sure at this point. But it transforms the display from merely cruel vandalism into a ritualistic act of control and subjugation.
The canine removal is the killer's unique brand, his twisted trademark.
It is. It's the MO feathers, glitter, mutilation, and canine extraction that links every single crime, regardless of the victim species, throughout the entire source material.
And this is the piece of data, the one solid thing that Tempe needs to hold on to when all the inevitable distractions and red herrings start to arrive.
Because they're coming.
Oh, they are. And speaking of distractions, this is where we get that critical first interaction with Detective Slidell, or Skinny.
Right. Slidell, trying to make sense of this bizarre skull, he attempts to connect the decoration to cultural rituals he's vaguely heard about.
Like calaveras or sugar skulls used in Day of the Dead traditions. He's reaching for a framework.
He's reaching for any framework that makes sense. And that attempt is a crucial moment for illustrating the difference between Tempe's scientific expertise and local law enforcement's guesswork.
He's trying to impose an external, understandable meaning, a cultural or ritualistic framework, onto what is essentially a senseless, pathological act.
And Tempe, the forensic scientist, immediately corrects him. She uses her extensive knowledge of anthropology to differentiate between genuine cultural tradition.
She notes that decorated crania feature in pre-Columbian societies.
Right. She differentiates that from what she's seeing here, which is personal pathology. This is internal. This is not about culture.
And the key difference she points out is vital.
Yeah.
This killer targets forest creatures and snatched pets.
Exactly. It's a critical distinction. And that moves the entire framework of the investigation from cultural something with external rules and history to purely psychological and internal to the killer.
It's a pathology, a personalized game.
A game. And Slidell, despite his tendency toward tunnel vision later on, he does grasp the gravity of the progression once he sees the photographs of the prior animal cases.
Which brings us to the core of the threat. Slidell, in his typical blunt, maybe somewhat vulgar fashion, is the one who articulates the terrifying progression.
He says the shit pot's going bigger.
That raw, visceral observation is an absolutely crucial hinge point for understanding the entire arc of this investigation.
It confirms very early on that the perpetrator is intentionally scaling up. He's scaling up the size of the victims, the visibility of the displays, and the complexity of the displays.
So we really need to spend some significant time on this. This is our first real expert tangent on escalation and scope, because this progression, this roadmap, it defines everything that comes next.
It's the key to understanding his mindset.
So when Tempe initially reviews the prior animal cases, she notes that the earlier displays were so small of possums, raccoons, that she didn't even bother to measure them.
Right, she wasn't anticipating a pattern based on size. It just looked like random acts of cruelty.
But Slidell, with his comment, he forces her to go back and check the scale markers, the ABFO ruler on the forensic photos. What did that retrospective check actually confirm about the perpetrator's planning?
It confirmed a definite calculated trajectory that looked precisely like a practice run, or maybe a dress rehearsal for something bigger.
What did she find?
She found a clear progression from small, easily acquired forest creatures, the raccoons and opossums, to larger, more complex ones. And that culminates in the recent display, MCME 70125, which involved a larger animal and forced the construction of a more elaborate display, 10 feet up a tree.
So he's building his skills.
He's building his skills and he's building his confidence. The fact that the killer started with smaller animals and then moved up to known, registered pets like bear, who we'll discuss shortly, indicates a deliberate, measurable increase in complexity, in risk, and in emotional impact.
And the risk is the key here. Let's talk about that. Why would a killer take the time and the massive risk of snatching a Boikin Spaniel from a known owner when a wild raccoon or a possum is so much easier and safer to acquire?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer gets us right inside his head. This shift serves several psychological and operational purposes.
Okay, let's break those down. Operationally first.
Operationally, it requires planning and surveillance. You can't just stumble upon a specific pet in a park. You need to know the pet's routine, the owner's habits, the physical location. You need to scout.
Which, as we'll find out later, ties directly into his profession.
Directly. But second, and maybe more importantly, is the psychological purpose. Stealing a known pet immediately introduces a direct human element. Grief, fear, anger into the equation.
It's a different level of violation.
Completely. The earlier victims, the wild animals, they merely shopped a random finder. But stealing bear injects psychological suffering directly into an owner's life. Crawford Joy is a named person, he's traceable, he's a specific target of emotional pain.
So the progression isn't just about the size of the canvas, so to speak. It's about the intensity of the human reaction it provokes.
That's it exactly. This progression is a clear indication that the killer is mastering his technique, he's testing his limits, and most chillingly, he's seeking a greater thrill by escalating toward the ultimate target.
Human beings.
Or, more accurately, the human reactions to his work with human beings. He's a chaos agent.
So this intentional progression, the physical scaling up, the psychological scaling up, the operational scaling up, it serves as the critical fair play clue.
Yes, a term we should probably define for our listeners.
Let's do that. In mystery fiction, the fair play doctrine is this sort of unwritten rule that the author has to give the reader all the same clues that the detective gets.
The solution shouldn't come out of nowhere. You, the reader, should be able to look back and say, I see it now. The clues were there all along.
And this pattern of escalation is a massive fair play clue. The investigators have it right in front of them.
They desperately needed to recognize the seriousness of the threat before the human deaths started. They saw the methodology evolving, but they didn't yet grasp the identity of the ultimate target.
So this analysis is what shifts the investigation from simple nuisance cruelty, from sick animal displays, to a full-blown serial pathology hunt.
It changes the entire game.
So they have the pattern, the MO of glitter, feathers, and the excised canines, but they still have no living suspect and no human motive connected to this very specific pathology. How does Tempe move beyond the stylized animal skull to finding a traceable human lead?
Well, that takes us into the exhaustive and ultimately rewarding investigative work.
Tempe's investigative style is. It's interesting. It's characterized by her reliance on a deep, long-standing, and often very complicated personal network.
It is. She can be aloof, even cold, and highly analytical with casual colleagues. But when she needs results, she taps into these dedicated human connections that she's built over years.
This is a vital component of her success, isn't it? She's not just a lone genius in a lab.
No, and that's a common misconception about the consulting expert trope. She embodies that trope, yes, but she relies heavily on her human connections to navigate the often frustrating police hierarchy and the bureaucracy.
So to find a lead on these specific ritualistic animal cruelty cases, she needs veterinary expertise. But she doesn't just call a referral service.
No, she needs the best, and she needs someone empathetic. So she contacts her ex-husband, Pete Petersons.
Affectionately known as Good Time Pete.
Right, and she calls him to secure the contact information for a now retired, reclusive veterinarian, Dr. Ralph Belotus.
And just that act, relying on Pete, it underscores the complex yet enduring nature of her personal history.
It shows she's pragmatic. She knows who holds the keys to specialized knowledge, even if accessing that knowledge requires wading through her own complicated past with Pete.
But the person she finds, Dr. Belotus, is an absolute tragedy in himself.
He is. Pete warns her that Belotus has become a recluse, an alcoholic. He's a broken man.
And when Tempe arrives, she finds him gaunt, a mere remnant of his former self. He's been grieving the death of his partner, Michael Fielding, from cryptococcal meningitis for 4 years.
He's completely withdrawn, grief-stricken, and he initially refuses to help. He just says he's permanently retired.
This scene, though, it's not just character development. It's actually a display of investigative methodology.
Oh, absolutely. Tempe's genius here is in her communication strategy, her approach.
She doesn't beg. She doesn't appeal to a civic duty.
No, she uses the pure gravity of the crime itself to pierce his wall of grief. She's direct. She tells him some psycho is torturing and killing animals, then mutilating and displaying their corpses.
She leverages his deeply buried professional empathy for animals to motivate the recluse.
His profound love for his former patients and his deep grief for his partner are what ultimately pull him back into the world, even if it's just for the critical hours required to examine the remains. It's a brilliant piece of psychological maneuvering on her part.
And this professional collaboration, born from shared grief and empathy, it leads directly to the first major breakthrough of the case.
The bear case.
Belotus meets Tempe at the morgue. Joe Hawkins brings in the body of a decapitated dog that was found near Camp Thunderbird.
And Belotus, in Autopsy Room 4, uses a scanner and finds a microchip.
The microchip. This is the quintessential hard data clue that grounds the entire investigation. It moves it from the abstract to the concrete.
It does. It immediately provides a name, a breed, a gender, and most importantly, an owner.
Crawford Joy, a high-powered divorce attorney.
And this instantly moves the theoretical crime of ritualistic cruelty into the realm of traceable human conflict. Suddenly there are motives, there are relationships, there are enemies.
When Tempe and Belotus visit Joy, the owner is, as you'd expect, distraught. He demands they kill the fucker who harmed his dog Bear.
And Joy confirms the microchip was implanted, and he immediately names a very specific, disgruntled client, a man named Jerome Sunday.
Who had threatened extreme violence.
Extreme. Promised to sever my balls with a hacksaw and shove them down my throat. It's specific and it's violent.
Okay, so this is a textbook example of a primary red herring being introduced at a critical juncture.
Absolutely. Let's break this down from a mystery construction perspective. Jerome Sunday is the first plausible human motive. He's a person who is angry enough at the owner to kill the dog in a horrific manner.
So the question for the investigators becomes, did Sunday kill Bear out of pure revenge, just a one-off act of violence?
Or is the ritualistic killer, our main guy, simply using Bear as a convenient victim and using Joy's very public conflict with Sunday as a sophisticated distraction, a smokescreen?
Given the consistency of the larger ritual, the feathers, the glitter, the canine removal, which likely required specialized tools and a lot of patience, it seems highly improbable that the killer is Jerome Sunday.
I agree. Sunday's motive seems based purely on spontaneous, albeit extreme, vengeance against Joy. It doesn't fit the cold, meticulous, artistic profile of our killer.
Sunday is the prime red herring that Slidell should have been pursuing heavily.
He should have been. But as we know, and as we'll discuss, Slidell has already locked onto his own entirely different monovision about sexual deviance. He's not interested in Jerome Sunday.
So the investigators have to maintain focus. They have to carefully weigh this plausible revenge motive against the bizarre specific MO to determine if they're looking at two separate criminals who coincidentally both targeted Bear,
Which is unlikely.
or one killer who is utilizing a complex distracting methodology to throw them off the scent.
And they make the right call. They decide to stick with the MO to trust the pattern.
Which is smart, because the next key breakthrough comes from a completely different source. And this one emphasizes the essential importance of tedious, boring investigative drudgery over flashy forensics.
The shoe leather part of the job.
Exactly. Tempe and Slidell returned to Park Road Park, where Bear was last seen. And Slidell, despite complaining about the heat and his jeopardized lunch date, he finds something.
He finds a crucial, overlooked piece of evidence, a fragmented rawhide and rubber dog toy with clear indentations on it.
The dog toy. It's mundane, it's dirty, it's easily overlooked, but it is a monumental breakthrough.
It is. And Slidell, who is usually so prone to sarcasm and cynicism, he spots it, recognizes it's a specific type, and he asserts, but he messed up with this, and it's going to put his sick ass in the can.
This is a great moment for Slidell. It's a moment of crucial insight.
And it confirms that fair play principle we were just talking about. The clue was physically present, it was available to the detective who was persistent enough to look beyond the spectacle and just do the boring work of searching the ground.
So this brings us to our next big tangent, the investigative drudgery tangent. Because we often see the quick deductions in stories like this, the aha moments.
Right.
But we rarely see the sheer, mind-numbing labor that's required to follow up on a simple lead like a piece of a dog toy.
This kind of work is the unglamorous reality that really grounds the police procedural genre. It's not the flash of CSI, it's pavement pounding. It's boring.
And the sources detail it. They spent hours driving in the sweltering, rising Charlotte heat, dealing with the sheer monotony of canvassing business after business.
They had to visit a pet palace, a pet wants, 2 pet smarts, and even a canine cafe. A canine cafe, showing this little toy fragment to every manager they could find.
And you can feel the frustration. Slidell's mood sours visibly with the rise in the mercury. His cheeks get flushed with the heat and the annoyance.
And the dialogue in the reports captures the sheer boredom and repetition of asking the same question over and over and over. Do you recognize this specific fragment? Have you seen this before?
It perfectly contrasts the quick intellectual deduction of Tempe analyzing bone structure with the grinding physical police work of retail canvassing. It's two different kinds of intelligence at work.
Both equally necessary.
And that drudgery, that boring work, it pays off with the Amazon connection.
It does, finally. The owner of a specialized pet store, All Creatures on Earth, a place with barred windows and a really specialized inventory, she identifies the specific, expensive dog toy.
And critically, she notes that while she sells them, they are only sourced nearby at the warehouse for Amazon delivery services, for their local drivers.
And that is the definitive aha moment. That is the moment that immediately focuses the entire investigation like a laser beam.
This crucial mundane detail provides a key professional profile for the suspect. It narrows the search dramatically.
The search immediately shrinks from anyone in the entire county to a very specific pool of individuals, people with specific, flexible employment in the area.
An Amazon driver's routine is the perfect criminal cover. Let's think about that.
It's perfect. They drive set routes, but they also have a lot of autonomy. They have access to high-resolution GPS maps of neighborhoods, and they can plausibly claim to be alone, traveling, and stopping in completely disparate locations at different times.
From the rural area of Frog Pond to a busy urban park, or even scouting quiet, affluent neighborhoods like the Annex where Tempe lives.
It is a brilliant example of how modern employment structures, things we see every day, can inadvertently provide the perfect operational framework for organized crime. The banal becomes the sinister.
So the investigators now have a profile. Organized, meticulous, possibly with surgical or taxidermy skills,
All right.
and leveraging a mundane job for surveillance and access. So before the killer takes his massive and what feels like inevitable leap to human targets, Tempe tries to gain a deeper understanding of the pathology at work.
She needs a psychological framework. She needs to know who she's hunting.
So she consults with her friend, the psychologist, Dr. Adina Kumar.
And Adina's framework for analyzing an act of pure evil is essential for us, for the listener, to grasp the difference between impulsive violence and this kind of organized pathology.
What does she outline?
She outlines 4 criteria for an act to be considered pure evil. 1, the act must be truly horrific in nature.
Check.
2, it must be intentional and planned. Malice aforethought, as the lawyers say.
Double check.
3, it must involve extreme suffering, either inflicted on the victim or witnessed by others.
Which we know is the killer's primary goal.
And 4, the nature of the act must seem inexplicable or irrational to normal society. It has to defy easy explanation.
And this case fits all 4 perfectly.
Perfectly. Adina then provides the psychological framework connecting the escalating animal cruelty to human violence. She suggests the killer feels extreme powerlessness in his own life.
And he must inflict suffering and terror to compensate, to regain a sense of control through spectacle.
Exactly. The violence isn't impulsive rage. It's not a crime of passion. It's premeditated ritual driven by a desperate narcissistic need for control and attention.
And this leads directly to the critical, chilling warning that closes this investigative chapter and sets the stage for the human murders.
Adina tells Tempe that the perpetrator's trajectory looks frighteningly similar to classic serial killers. She sees the path he's on.
And she makes the terrifying prediction.
I fear people may die. The time for animal cruelty as a warm-up, as a rehearsal, is over.
And Adina's prediction, unfortunately, proves true with frightening speed. The deep dive now turns to the true escalation, where the killer attempts to replicate his animal MO on human remains.
This confirms he is no longer practicing. He is performing.
The first human remains are discovered. They are female, estimated between 35 and 50 years of European ancestry.
And they are deliberately and shockingly mixed with animal scraps.
Which is a blatant attempt to confuse the forensic process and to maximize the shock factor for whoever finds them.
But what immediately confirms it is the same perpetrator is that identical MO. The signature is unmistakable. Feathers, glitter, facial mutilation.
And the unique, gruesome signature. One hand severed and taken elsewhere.
The victim is later identified as Eleanor Godric.
And Tempe notes that the sign suggests the remains came from a coffin burial, which indicates grave robbery, not a fresh murder, at this stage.
Right, though the hands were clearly removed post-mortem, likely to delay identification.
But this is where we see the investigative process really start to break down because of human bias. Specifically, Slidell's bias.
Slidell, faced with the horrific nature of the crime, he just locks onto a single fixed theory. Tempe rightly labels it professional monovision.
He becomes convinced that the bizarre animal and human displays are part of an erotic fantasy, a deep perversion.
So he begins drilling down exclusively on registered sex offenders. He's convinced the killer is a, quote, perv making up for his limp dick by abusing animals.
And this narrative focus on sex offenders, it provides a plausible, dark explanation for the bizarre acts. It's a kind of shorthand for evil that's easy to understand.
But it completely blinds the detective to the actual motive, which is control, narcissism, and chaos. And that's far less easily categorized, far harder to search for in a database.
This tunnel vision, this focus on sexual deviance, leads them directly to the prime red herring of the case. A suspect who fits the aesthetic perfectly. Hugh Norwitz.
Norwitz. Let's take a detailed examination of him, because he is designed from a narrative standpoint to be the perfect distraction.
He's masterful misdirection. He's a registered sex offender, guilty of indecent exposure and possession of child pornography, so he's already on their radar.
And operationally, he perfectly fits the macabre aesthetic of the crime. He's a professional taxidermist.
And not just any taxidermist. He specializes in what Tempe calls provocative taxidermy. His home is filled with these unsettling displays, like squirrels in tutus and hugging rabbits posed in strange tableau.
He even openly confesses to scouting rural areas and roadsides for carcasses for his work.
So if you made a checklist based on appearance and hobby and criminal record, Norwitz would score 100%.
He looks, sounds, and lives exactly like the suspect that Slidell has imagined in his head. He's the perfect fit for the theory.
But he's the wrong guy.
He's the wrong guy. When Tempe and Slidell visit a taxidermy conference in Clemens, the female taxidermists they interview, they quickly dismiss Norwitz as the killer.
How do they describe him?
Not as a dangerous, organized psychopath capable of high-risk murder and complex surveillance. They just describe him as an arrogant bully and a creep.
He lacks the sophisticated planning and the psychological drive necessary for the Evil Bones killer. He's a performer, but a low-level one.
And this emphasizes a crucial point in any kind of criminal profiling. Not every person who is profoundly creepy or generally deviant is capable of structured, high-risk, organized serial violence. There are levels to this.
Norwitz is a perfect example of a suspect who just burns up precious investigative time while the real killer is out there, continuing to escalate in the shadows.
And escalate he does.
Swiftly, proving Adina's warning correct again. The second human victim is found. Quashy Brown, or Quash.
A homeless man who frequented the veterans' shelter where Tempe's daughter, Katie, works.
This time, the victim is fresh. He was shot. And he's displayed with the identical MO feathers, glitter, mutilation.
And critically, again, a missing hand.
And Katie recognizes his distinctive earring, which brings the horror uncomfortably, terrifyingly close to Tempe's personal circle.
Quash's case proves the ultimate point. The killer has moved from the long dead to the recently deceased. He has crossed the line into active murder. This confirms his operational capabilities have peaked.
During the autopsy, Dr. Nguyen makes an astonishing discovery that cements the killer's psychological profile.
He finds a silver flat thumb drive
Inserted into Quash's aim.
The physical violation of the victim post-mortem. It's meant as the ultimate taunt. It's a signal that this is not about reverence or simple disposal.
No. This is about maximum psychological impact, and it's aimed directly at the authorities.
The content of that drive is where the psychological terrorism truly begins.
The single blue folder on the drive is labeled Evil.
And the video inside contains these cryptic scrolling letters. P.E.
Okay, this is the perfect time for our expert tangent on cryptic clues and terror. We have to analyze what this means. What in the world is P.E.?
Right. And Tempe speculates wildly. Is it physical education, petroleum engineer, pulmonary embolism?
The vagueness is entirely intentional, isn't it?
Completely. It is a coded taunt. It's designed not to reveal his identity, but to confirm his ownership of the crime, and to indicate a highly sophisticated, tech-savvy mind that is playing a game with them.
It's not just the letters, though. The video's underlying content is what really confirms the psychological intent.
Yes. The video shows a scene from an obscure underground horror movie called Creep.
So this isn't random filler. Using a scene from a specific horror movie that deals with isolation and fear, that's a deliberate signal.
It is. The thumb drive placed inside the victim is the most profound violation, and it's the definitive evidence that this killer is not merely committing murder. He is communicating in a way that is designed to instill fear and confusion in the investigators.
He wants them to waste time searching for a meaning in the letters that might not even exist.
Exactly. Distracting them from the physical evidence, pulling them into his intellectual maze. The game has transitioned from merely aesthetic display to intellectual and psychological terrorism.
This is the moment the genre of the story shifts completely.
It does.
It goes from a forensic police procedural that's all about dealing with physical evidence to a psychological thriller where Tempe herself is out to become the primary target. So Tempe takes this thumb drive to the CMPD lab, and the tech, a guy named Orson Coaster, manages to crack the encryption.
And the evidence Coaster finds. It shifts the focus of the entire case. It moves from the victims and the red herrings directly to Tempe herself.
The footage Coaster uncovers is genuinely shocking.
It's not a generalized threat. It's not another horror movie clip. It's a video of a highly recognizable private setting.
Tempe's own home. The annex.
Specifically, her bedroom, filmed through the open hall door.
This proves the perpetrator had invaded her private space, planted a device, and it confirms the ultimate personalization of the crime.
The killer is no longer aiming for general media coverage or terrorizing random citizens. He is meticulously and narcissistically targeting one person, Temperance Brennan.
It is the ultimate violation of privacy and security. But within this invasive footage, they spot the next critical clue.
Hidden in plain sight. It demonstrates the killer's incredible hubris.
They notice a folded document peeking from the pocket of the person who is holding the camera.
And Coaster, using digital enhancement, zooms in and in until the pixelation is almost unbearable and he reveals the crucial text.
Network of tunnels running beneath Charlotte's streets.
And this immediately links the digital evidence from the Evil Drive to a very real, very physical, and highly specific confrontation space that the killer is planning to use.
This is the perfect point for our extended tangent on the tunnels and phobias. because the source material links the tunnels directly to the killer's very specific, very personal planning.
Right. The tunnels themselves are these fascinating pieces of local history-old mining tunnels running beneath Charlotte. They're part of the world of urban exploration, or urbex.
The culture of building hackers and city spelunkers.
And this is precisely the kind of niche, esoteric detail that the grad student Lester Malloy had innocently brought up in a conversation weeks earlier. It's a coincidence, but a fateful one.
That's right. Tempe remembered that Malloy, while they're all having dinner at the Red Rocks Cafe, detailed the history of these tunnels. He noted that serious urban spelunkers know where they are.
But the truly sinister connection, the thing that turns this from a piece of trivia into a weapon, is that Tempe's niece, Ruthie, was present for that entire conversation.
And during that conversation, long before the kidnapping, the subject of phobias came up.
And Ruthie confessed her own specific phobia, a fear of closed dark spaces, of subterranean tunnels, claustrophobia.
And Tempe, in a rare moment of openness, confessed her deepest fear. Not spiders, not heights.
No. Her fear is the fear of losing people you love.
So the killer, having successfully placed a small surveillance device under the sofa in the annex, which Tempe discovers much later, was listening to their most intimate, most vulnerable conversation.
This elevates the crime from random serial violence to a tailored psychological attack. It's bespoke terror.
He wasn't planning a simple confrontation. He was planning a complex underground phobia game.
Specifically designed to exploit the known vulnerabilities of both Tempe, her fear of loss, and Ruthie with her claustrophobia.
So he utilized mundane professional access from his Amazon job.
Mundane personal conversation that he overheard at the picnic.
And obscure local knowledge about the tunnels to create this perfect storm of personalized terror. It's an incredible convergence of information.
It is. And the black Honda surveillance then confirms Tempe's growing paranoia isn't paranoia at all. It's reality.
She notices the black Honda Accord, license plate TL3, following her, and she connects it to the same black Honda she saw parked outside the annex, and the one a witness saw blocking her view at Cordelia Park.
This confirms that the killer's mundane job as an Amazon driver translates into a highly effective criminal surveillance and reconnaissance. He's using his route to watch her.
And this meticulous preparation leads to the personal assault and the kidnapping climax.
Tempe is attacked near the lake. She's hit in the arm, likely injected with Rohypnol, and she wakes up exactly where the killer wanted her.
In the tunnels. Trussed like a pig, shivering in the dark, damp, confined space.
Her own personal manufactured nightmare built from her loved one's phobia.
The captor's Phobia Game confession is terrifying because it confirms his purely narcissistic, highly personalized motive. He's not doing this for a cause.
No. And he speaks in multiple altered voices. A robotic male, a high, warbly female to enhance the sense of terror and confusion.
And he explicitly states his overriding motive. I couldn't care less about animals. My interest is in the humans who happen upon my work.
He confirms he knows Tempe's specific phobia. He taunts her about the safety of Ruthie and her partner, Ryan. The entire sequence is designed to establish absolute dominance and control over the forensic expert who dared to hunt him.
So the ultimate goal isn't her death.
No, not necessarily. The goal is her profound psychological suffering and her complete humiliation. He wants to break the expert.
But Tempe's escape is a moment of pure desperation and incredible sharp-witted resourcefulness.
It is. The captor, in his supreme confidence, his arrogance, he casually tosses aside a small pocket knife. He's confident that a bound, drugged victim couldn't possibly use it.
That small lapse, a discarded pocket knife, it's the fatal narcissistic flaw in his otherwise meticulous plan.
His need to monologue and gloat, his need to witness her terror up close, it provides the critical window for her survival.
And Tempe, using incredible effort, despite the Rohypnol in her system, manages to saw through her ropes.
She escapes into a gully during a rainstorm, eventually flagging down a drunken couple who, miraculously, actually believe her story about being kidnapped by a man in a black Honda.
But the game's not over? Not yet.
No. Immediately following Tempe's escape, the killer escalates one last time. He targets Tempe's ultimate vulnerability.
Katie is reported missing.
The abductor contacts Tempe, repeating the Phobia game, now actively targeting Tempe's deepest fear, losing her daughter.
The race is on. And it culminates at a burning building, the Marlwood House, which Tempe realizes is the final stage of his game.
She and Slidell arrive. While the fire department deals with the flames above, Tempe searches the basement.
And the basement is revealed as the killer's workshop. It's full of taxidermy supplies.
And crucially, a crumpled polo shirt bearing the unmistakable Amazon logo.
This is the definitive link between the banal delivery job and the macabre artist who is operating right under their noses the entire time.
But the final absolute confirmation comes not from digital evidence or a logo, but from Tempe's pure forensic intuition, her senses.
She identifies a specific, unique smell in the basement.
A blend of cedar, oil, and critically, Van Dyke's finishing deodorizer, a specific product.
When she connects directly to the unique scent of her captor that she smelled up close in the tunnels.
Scent memory, combined with the material evidence, is the final piece of the puzzle. It's an incredibly powerful forensic tool.
The killer is Turner Long, the Amazon driver, and Slidell, driven by this furious commitment that Tempe attributes to his unexpected marshmallow center when it comes to the animals.
He sprints up the stairs and captures Long after a chase.
Confirming Tempe's deduction, the killer's everyday employment access was integral to his terrifying MO. Okay, let's look at the fallout, the final verdict and the motivations that are revealed. First, the deception. The immediate suspects, the grad students, Malloy and Hall, who knew about the tunnels and phobias, they're released.
They were the ultimate red herrings, and they were built entirely on coincidence and the killer's opportunistic eavesdropping.
Their group, Live, was innocuous. It was just a group of idealistic students interested in social justice and environmentalism.
Malloy was simply an enthusiastic graduate student interested in Dante's ranking of evil acts. That was his academic passion. And Hall knew about the tunnels not through crime, but from her legitimate engineering job with the city.
They provided the context of the tunnels and the phobias, but they were utterly innocent of the crimes.
Turner Long, the real killer, was simply leveraging that coincidence. He was using their public information to enhance the terror of his game, to make it seem more complex than it was.
So what was his motivation ultimately? After all that elaborate ritual and planning, what did he confess to?
His motivation was purely narcissistic. It was focused on power and recognition.
He confessed that he used his Amazon job to scout locations and create perfect alibis. And that's a terrifying banality that we need to emphasize.
He didn't have a grand ideological motive. He didn't have a profound political statement or a deep-seated sexual fetish related to the animals or the corpses.
He just enjoyed it.
He simply enjoyed the chaos and the sickness he created. He used GoPros, which he would mount near his displays, to film the human reactions to his horrific art.
So he could watch them later.
So he could watch them later and feed his own need for omnipotence and control. He was his own audience.
And the missing hands. That single feature that differentiated the human displays from the animal ones, was there a complex, ritualistic reason for that?
No. His reason was simple, cold, tactical thinking. It was all aimed at maximizing his time in the spotlight.
The hands were removed to delay identification.
Specifically, fingerprint matching, thus extending his game and the resulting media coverage. The goal was delay, chaos, and increased visibility for his self-styled art. He just wanted to make sure he stayed ahead of the curve.
The investigation takes a profound personal toll on Tempe.
But he has to.
She reflects on the close call, her injuries, the rohypnol injection, and the chilling realization that the killers didn't just know her profession. He knew her deepest, most guarded fear.
The fear of losing people she loves.
This is really the thematic heart of the story, isn't it? The forensic expert, the highly rational scientist, is forced to confront her own human vulnerability.
Absolutely. The killer failed to kill her physically, but he succeeded in infiltrating her psychological defenses, and that's a different kind of violation.
It forces Tempe to realize that her human connections, Ryan, Katie, Ruthie, are not just sources of comfort and strength, but also, in the world she lives in, their vulnerabilities.
They're pressure points he can use against her.
We also see a significant shift in Detective Slidell, his atypical behavior at the end.
His genuine commitment to finding the perpetrator, which Tempe realizes, is due to his belief in protecting animals, that marshmallow center he hides.
It led to his full physical exertion during Long's capture. He may have had the wrong initial theory focused on sex offenders.
But his ultimate motivation was pure. It was about justice. And that led him to the physical takedown. His commitment was driven by empathy, even if his methods were rough around the edges.
So the thematic takeaway here is clear, and it's profoundly unsettling. True evil often hides in plain sight.
It leverages mundane professional access, an Amazon delivery route, and it exploits basic human vulnerability, like our fear of loss, rather than relying on sophisticated knowledge or complex ideological motives.
The most frightening killers are those, like Turner Long, who blend seamlessly into the everyday fabric of society.
They use banality as their camouflage.
So, from a bizarre animal ritual that was confirmed by excise canines, all the way to a targeted campaign of terror rooted in personalized phobias that was revealed by a scented deodorizer and an Amazon shirt.
This deep dive really revealed how forensic detail, psychological insight, and just sheer luck.
A pocket knife.
The pocket knife, the specific scent, all of that brought Turner Long's terrifying game to an end.
The source material suggests Long got away with animal cruelty for years before he escalated to human targets.
What a long time.
So now that we know his motive was not the animals themselves, but purely the human reaction to them, the fear, the media frenzy, the investigation.
What does this tell you about the role of media visibility and public outcry, and the overall attention the community pays to low-level violence, in inadvertently shaping the trajectory of a psychopath, in defining when they decide to finally escalate?
And a final thought, what invisible games are still being played right now by those who simply enjoy watching the chaos they created, using the most banal aspects of modern life, your delivery route, your public conversations, as their ultimate undetectable cover?
Something profound to think about the next time you hear that truck backing up your driveway.